Today we are joined by Brady. He shares his amazing story from his troubled childhood, organised crime, prison time, to then righting his wrongs for his family and building a multi-million-dollar company with over 175 employees. Enjoy.
Cool. We're rolling.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers, boys. Oh. Oh, that's good.
Oh, your face says it all.
What is that?
It's Lewis cognac. So it's
Oh, it's delicious.
it's Hennessy made by Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, right. Fancy. Oh, well, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
No worries, thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime.
Where should we start?
Probably once, but
Where should we start? Can you maybe take us back to the start? Tell us a bit about your upbringing, family, school.
yeah. I was born in Launceston, Tasmania, in 1989, and then I was born 3 months premature. So yeah, mad preemie, had mad birth complications. I was actually a twin, and my brother wasn't brought into this world, unfortunately. So needless to sort of say, brought into some struggle.
Yeah.
Then growing up, mate, if there was a dunce class, I was a part of it. You know what I mean? Like I had learning difficulties, cognitive difficulties. I just struggled. And then when I was about, I think I was 6, my family moved from Tasmania to New Zealand, and the learning barrier got worse just because of the pronunciation. I already struggled, and then I went from a small country town where they had more polished shoes and they're all fancy and shit to the lovely streets of Auckland, New Zealand. I mean, they didn't even wear shoes to school.
All the stuff.
Really?
Yeah, I got dusted up daily.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a change. We stayed there for 3 years before coming back to Australia. About 9, and then I wasn't very good at school. Still struggling, still couldn't read and write. I got bounced from school to school because of poor behaviour, and evidently I ended up dropping out of school at the end of year 9.
Yeah, wow. Year 9.
Yep.
How old are you in year 9? What's that?
14.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You just had enough of school, or just couldn't deal with it, or just
wasn't
interested?
I was pretty truant. I didn't really go that much.
Yeah.
And my behaviour was pretty piss poor.
Yeah.
I just sort of had enough.
Yeah.
I just remember I had a job at the time, I think Woolworths or something. I remember I didn't go to school for like a week, and my mum said, "What are you doing? Like, you're not going. Are you going to have a crack at this or what?" And I just said, "Nah, I think I'm done."
Yeah.
And so shrugged it off. That was it. That was enough school.
Yeah.
How long did you sort of work a 9 to 5? I guess after school.
So I've had a few like ventures here and there. Like I've always done weird little hustles. My first job was at Woolworths. Then I got fired from there for again scallywag behaviour. Then I got a job at a leather hide factory place, and that I just felt my soul getting sucked out there. Like a bunch of old decrepit people just punching holes in leather, and then the lunch bell would ring and they'd punch their time card and go out and that just I couldn't sleep well at night. So I left that, got a job at a sandstone place, like just a string of just shit jobs. Yeah. And eventually I ended up getting a carpentry apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And I finished that when I was 17 or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
What was your first sort of business venture?
So the first thing I did was a silt retention company when I was like 14 years old. So in front of a construction site, they've got to stop the sediment from running off the site and into
all the sandbags. And
shit. So I started installing that. The next one I did like some DJ work, I guess. But
he's a DJ.
Yeah. That's good.
I played at schoolies with one of my mates, Jared, and a bit of shit. But again, all this stuff, it's more just like
to fill a gap.
Self-employed sort of just. I was just
something.
Yeah, although I didn't have a direct boss, I was just working myself, just
Yeah.
trying to make some coin.
Yeah.
First sort of bigger business when you realise you could probably take it somewhere.
Well, again, it depends how you define business, right? That's really what you want to get into, because technically, the way I see it, the only real business that I've ever built has been RB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, because if you can't leave your business or your job or your whatever you want to call what you do, if you can't leave it for a month and it does what it's meant to do in your absence, really you're just self-employed.
Yeah.
And then again, that's debatable, but yeah, unless you can leave it and it runs autonomously, the business is the systems that you produce.
Yeah.
And that are ongoing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, other things I've done, I built encrypted phones for a while there, but due to the attention and sort of avenue the things that brought about, I knocked that on the head.
Yeah. Did that lead down to a different path, I guess?
Ooh. Yeah, look, I guess the nitty-gritty stuff that you want to sort of touch on, looking at RB and the aspirations that it's got and where it's gone, right, and then how that sort of happened, because that sort of entwines with a sort of dodgy past, or sort of past things that have sort of happened.
Yeah.
And
should we go back to sort of, is there much else that sort of between when you sort of dropped out of school and sort of did that trade that sort of went through in those sort of periods, like any defining moments or anything that you sort of can think of that was sort of like led you down the path that sort of you ended up going down? Or was it just sort of
there's a lot of stuff, but it really depends on what you want to touch on, man. Because I mean, my life's been it's got heaps of ups and downs in it, man. I've been beaten within an inch of your life. I was working in nightclubs at 15 years old. Like I lived in a massive party house with 20 people that we just rioted for a while there. Like it's had so many ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
But it really, I don't want to sit here and just ramble on shit.
Yeah.
About stuff that's not going to really get this isn't the days of our lives.
The thing is as well, there's a lot of people who are potentially in the same sort of situation that are in a struggle doing that sort of shit, partying and getting in trouble, and they don't want to do it anymore. You know what I mean? They want to try. They're aspiring for more, but they just don't know how to take that step. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look, it's something you're going to have to. They have to want to do.
Yeah.
And there has to be a catalyst that defines that change.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? And you can have multiple catalysts that over different time periods you can fall back into bad habits. You know what I mean? And it's really how far you run with it when you have a turn of luck. You know what I mean? Like, I guess with scaffolding. So I don't know how to say it. I wasn't doing very good things. I found myself in prison on some pretty serious charges that carried mandatory 15 years served if convicted. And at that point in my life, I didn't have anything going. I was just being a scallywag full time. I had a partner who was pregnant, who was set to give birth to my child within 6 weeks of my initial arrest. I was told that I wouldn't get bail in magistrates court. I had to fight for Supreme Court bail. I had limited funding, so I only had 30, 40 grand in the bank. Supreme Court bail was going to take 10k of that.
Yeah.
So I found myself locked up at R&R and in a small 2x4 cell, some boobhead, one night thinking, fuck, I've just fucked my kid's life, my unborn child's life. I've just, through my stupidity or lazy, what do you want to call it, I've set them up for a destitute of welfare and struggle.
Yeah.
So I sat there and I just said, if I just have one crack, if I can get this Supreme Court bail and I can get out, I'm going to make amends of it. You know what I mean? I'm going to do everything in my power to try and fix this shit.
Yeah.
Right? And needless to say, I got the Supreme Court bail, I got released, but that didn't really fix it, right? Because now I'm on bail, for some pretty hectic charges, and I got up to 150, 200 grand's worth of legal fees coming up. I've got to support my family and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I've got a limited amount of time that I've got to be able to do it. Right.
Yeah.
So I had to get to work.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The day I got out, I went straight back to work.
Yeah.
And I had to build up that cash flow
Yeah.
to try and compound. And in that time period, man, I literally, from that point onwards, I was having like protein shakes with oats in it. That's what I was eating every day.
Yeah.
Like it was fucking, I was just trying to compound. I did not want to spend a cent.
Yeah.
I wanted to put all my money to work for me and try and build up as quickly as I could to try and right the wrongs that I'd sort of, the path that I put my family on.
Yeah.
My son was born. I only got to hold my son very briefly because of my curfew conditions, and I had to fly back home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember calling the I don't know who managed it was a cop shop or whatever. They just said no leniency. Doesn't matter if your kid's being born. You've got curfew conditions. You've got to be home. So I robbed myself of that. I robbed myself of a lot of opportunities because of my stupid mistakes.
Yeah.
And off the back of that. During this time, I sort of needed. There was a lot of attention on me, right? I was on some pretty serious charges. There was some media stuff. There was a couple of investigations, and I really wanted to sort of get out of the limelight. So I needed to have some sort of thing to do, right? So I got a job, and I couldn't. My normal job, or the job I was doing prior to that, was some fly in, fly out sort of work, but I couldn't leave because of my bail conditions.
Yeah. Right.
I was signing in every day, and they were pretty strict. I had a strict curfew. So my mate said I can get the scaffolding. I thought, all right, no worries, I'll do that during the day, hustle into the night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We'll make this work. And then off the back of that, I was working for a bit. Scaffolding is hard. I take my hat off to all my lads. It is a fucking hard gig.
Tough.
I'm not built for that.
No. So we were scaffolding for a little. I was scaffolding for a little bit, and mind you. This wasn't all a lone sort of effort, but I'm not going to say names and involve other people that I was involved with. So although I'm saying it's the Royal I, there are other people involved in this who I'd love to give credit to, but I'm not going to mention their names out of respect for them.
Yeah.
I'm kicking along, I'm working and fucking I'm busting ass, and then the company I was working for went broke. And when they folded, I saw an opportunity. I thought, okay, I know how to register a company. I can fucking set up a QuickBooks file. It'll give me some more flexibility, so I can continue with my other things I'm doing and trying to get ahead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I really should have touched on before what my goal was at this point. Because when I got out, my ambition was if I'm going to do a 15-year whack, right, and I've destituted my child at that point to poverty. My goal was to get a house and pay off enough of it so then the mortgage repayments would be less than what the rent would be.
Yeah.
Therefore, in 15 years' time, I haven't left my kids up shit creek.
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? They're in a better position, whatever.
Yeah.
Just do whatever you can.
So that's what my goal was. My goal was to get the cash up, to buy a house, set them up, and that's what I was working towards, right? So then I thought, okay, and back to, I set up the scaffolding company, started working, started kicking along.
Yeah.
And that's really how I got into scaffolding per se, right? Fast forward a little bit, I'd achieved my goal. I bought the house, set the family up, right? So then my next goal was, okay, I've tried to right my wrongs as much as I could in this circumstance. My next one was I don't want to compound the problems. You know what I mean? I don't want to make things worse for my family than I already had. So that's what I wiped my hands clean of anything that could have been have compounded my legal issues at the time. I brushed friends, I brushed organisations, I brushed everything I possibly could to try and distance myself from that because I didn't want that to continue to snowball for my family.
Yeah.
And that was pretty hard, but it was what it was, and it's hard when you're so entrenched in something to disassociate. You virtually are re-identifying, like reinventing yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like losing family members. It's hard. That's what it takes to. You can't have one foot in, one foot out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've got to rip that shit off like a fucking band-aid.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And then so that was that sort of goal.
And how long did that take? So obviously, you got bail, and then sort of you had this goal to sort of build this to a position where you could buy a house and all that sort of stuff. How long between sort of that happening and the scaffolding company going under was this all sort of going down? How long did? What are the
That was
time
probably
windows?
about a year.
A year or so.
Probably a year. Probably
Yeah.
took a year, maybe a year and a bit for that to go through.
Yeah.
And then to separate myself from that, well, there were some very key points in that sort of, triggered it, and
Yeah.
there was no going back. I made that commitment, and the onslaught of that, for people who are entrenched in that sort of shit, or thinking about getting involved in it, it's not just. And I mean, I left on my own volition. I didn't. I'm not a rap. Didn't roll. I'm a stand-up dude. I left with my head held high. But the ramifications that come when you go to leave, people who haven't squared up with you, they'll turn against you to try and keep the dough. You know what I mean? You'll have the shit with the cops that doesn't go away straight away. I mean, I was still getting pulled over and pulled out of my car for fucking 5 years after the fact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that is ongoing.
There's backlash to being involved.
100%. It just, that's part and parcel of it. Every time I'd be with my family, I'd get pulled over by the cops for a random traffic stop. But because there was fucking crisps and shit on my fucking file that would flag up, they'd literally reach me out of the car, sit me on the fucking side of the road, handcuffed like a fucking scumbag I was. You know what I mean? And you get used to it, but it's hard. That takes time.
It's different when it's a family.
Yeah.
It takes time. That was that sort of part. Fucking and then so once I left that, went hard and I needed something to do, right?
Yeah.
So I was no longer a scallywag. I wasn't associating with crooks and people of that nature. So then the next thing was I just started entrenching myself in work. You know what I mean? That became the thing that I did.
Yeah, you just grinded.
It defined me. So I just started scalping full time, and so that's another thing. That when you're involved in that kind of stuff, it's hard. But it's also hard to walk away from something that's going. I don't know how to phrase this correctly, but if a tap's flowing, it's hard to turn that off. You know what I mean? To sit here and go, oh, not one more time. It's like fucking a crackhead going for a fix. Just one more. You know what I mean? If something's happening, you got things in the works. It's hard to just
Pull the pin on it
and go, you know what? I don't want
No
that
more.
anymore. No more. You know what I mean? And that's what normally keeps people rolling around in it, right? Even if they're on the up, because we all know it goes up and down. If you're in the hole, you got to work your way out of it, right? But if you're on the up, it's the old saying, you never get out when the times are good. You know what I mean? And when they're bad, you're stuck. Right?
Yeah.
So people stay in that rat race.
100%. Trying to time those ebbs and flows. You know what I mean? When is a good time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When do you pick the perfect run to exit related to crypto? You know what I mean? When it's going up, everyone's got the whole greed meter going. We're all flying. You know what I mean? But when it hits the deck, everyone's like, oh, fuck, you know what I mean? Same as stocks, whatever you want to relate it to.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that can sort of keep you entrenched in that sort of fucking shit.
Yeah.
So I pulled it, and I went back to, I just had a standard fucking wage. My life was adjusted to it. I was busting ass 12 hours a day to fucking make just enough money to feed my family. But, I knew inside it was the right decision.
The next chapter of your life.
Pretty much. So, and in doing so, I slipped discs in my back through the physical labour, which I still have to this day. I injured myself. I physically put my body on the line. But at that time, if you don't have money, makes money. Yeah, it's
Definitely.
Everyone knows that. So what do poor people have to make magic? You know what I mean? And what do you got to trade? Right, if you don't have money to compound or get interest off, what do you got to trade?
One of those big quotes that I read from Elon Musk the other day, something's like, the quicker you learn that you can make 10 grand quicker than you can save 10 grand. Like, so many people just think like, oh, I'm saving to build themselves up, but it's easier to go a different path to make 10 grand somewhere else than it is to save 10 grand.
Yeah. Again, it depends on what you've got readily available to you. But man, at that time, my life meant the only thing I could exchange was my time. You know what I mean? And that's all I could grind out. I had no money. I just had to grind my time, put in, and work my ass off. So the next thing that sort of happened. So then I'd achieved my first goal, which was write what I could with my family in terms of. Trying to set up the house. Then the next thing was, okay, get away from crime so I don't make this problem worse for my family in the event, you know what I mean? And I achieved that. So then the next thing was going, okay, well, I've got my legal fees covered, I've got this pending court case, now how about I try and either A, set this business up so it can survive me going away, or make enough money so that my family will be okay.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I went about. And we built up to about, I think maybe 20, 25 blokes. And we got awarded a couple of we'd been going for a little bit, built up a little bit of cash flow. And we won this job called the Boheme Building at Robina.
Mm-hmm.
That was for a guy named Wayne Cullen. And we got that job, and I got all the townhouses that surround it. So I didn't have the steel, but just the labour on the main couple of towers, and then the surrounding one I had the steel contract as well.
Yeah.
So I rented a couple of $1 million worth of steel, put it on all the townhouses around it, and we were pumping the steel on the two main buildings, and the builder went broke. Right, so he went broke on the 17th of December. I think it was I've got it written down because I always forget it. It was 2016. Right, so.
Yeah.
And the next year was when I was set to face court, and my lawyers told me, he's like, you're smoked, you're going away, right? There's no ifs or buts about it, right? So I'd done the writing, I'd left crime, I busted my ass, I built up, we had, I think at the time, maybe $250,000, $300K, and at the time there was a lot of money to me. That was going to support my family while I went away. And I did the right thing, and this guy drew me out to 90-day terms, and then went broke just before Christmas. So Merry fucking Christmas, you know what I mean? It's my last Christmas out, and I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. You know what I mean? And I was pretty dirty at the time. I was like, okay, I got pinched on extortion and other sorts of charges previously. You know what I mean? And then this guy comes in legally and stooks me for $300K, and there's nothing you can do about it. You know what I mean? Fucking, there you go, happy days.
Merry Christmas,
Yeah. So. And all sorts of shit starts rushing your brain. You're like, oh fuck, all right, I'll go get you. You know what I mean? And I remember just jumping in my car at times, not knowing what to do, and I was just driving, just thinking, what do I do? You know what I mean? Like I needed to do something. It wiped out our full bankroll. Not only did it wipe out the bankroll, I was still responsible for all the steel on the buildings that were surrounding it. Not only was I not getting paid for it, I also had to pay for that steel. You know what I mean? And that was still ongoing. You know what I mean? So even though I've lost all that money, I now still have to continue to pay for that steel there until someone takes on the contract. And at that point in time, I didn't know what to do, but I made a conscious decision. I'm like, nah. It's taken me 2.5 years to build up to this cash, and now I've only got 6 months before I go away. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to make this work. I'm not going to go back to old things. I'm going to stick to it. So again, weird chain of events. Hutchison Builders ended up taking on the contract, and when they took it on, I had to win that job back. Now I wasn't getting any money for the work that I'd lost, but where it stood that right then and there, I had to then price to finish it and pull it down. You know what I mean? All that other money was not to be taken into consideration. Which is pretty fucked. I've got to re-win the job that I just lost. Lost all the dough on. So we went about it, priced it. I priced it competitively, and the guys at Hutchins saw how much we were hurting. They saw that, and they're like, "Fuck this." They're trying to have a go. You know what I mean? And we ended up getting awarded the contract. I won it again. And that was a start. That was a catalyst to a very strong relationship that we hold today. I'll get to that later on. But so we did the work, job went up, job came down, kept working. I told all my suppliers that I owed cash to, because that wiped out all my dough. I told them I'd pay every last cent. And I did. My word's my bond. And that's something as well that is worth noting. And it's almost like people in white collar people. Sometimes they're bigger crooks than actual crooks. And sometimes they're more grimy. You know what I mean? At least a guy who is down on his luck, he's never had it come up. You know what I mean? His word means something to him because that's all he has. You know what I mean? He hasn't been silver spoon fed. He doesn't have a bunch of stuff behind him. You know what I mean? So when he values, he's got his dick, his last name. That's about it. And his word. So so we won the job back. I made a bit of dough. Rolled forward to the day. I worked right up until the day before I was meant to go away. In that, just after Christmas, had a bit of luck. I got my lawyer, Jason Jacobson, couldn't recommend him more. He got the mandatory serve sentencing dropped, right, which was a godsend, and so that got dropped. So I wasn't going to serve mandatory 15. He was telling me I'd probably do serve 2, so probably get like a 5-year serve 2.
Yeah.
Which we were ecstatic for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
with
a big win.
Big difference of 15 years.
Yeah, and with my prize and stuff like that, like that was pretty. That was kicking goals. So I worked right up until I knew I was going away. My family was set up. They had enough dough. I had a really good team in RB. We had about 20-25 people. Had my business partner and lovely accountant that were and a couple of other key team members. Again, I won't drop names, but who were holding us down. You know what I mean? I had confidence that RB would survive. I was hoping that it would survive a couple of years. I didn't want it to make mad bank. I just wanted my family to be okay. And then, obviously, the day driving to court, my back was that fucked. Like I told you before, I busted my back. Like it was that bad. Driving to court, I had to have the chair fully kicked back. I couldn't sit. Like I was fucked. I was ratchet. I was skinny. I was drawn out. Like man, I literally, like for that whole duration, man, I just busted my ass.
Pushed it to the very end.
Oh yeah, I was fucked. Right? Like cactus. And then, which again, it's a big contrast from the life I was living, going out for eating out every meal and just sort of kicking along with the boys, man. So look, it was a reality check, but it sort of ingrained something in me that what I knew I was capable of. So then off the back of that, drove to court, we're in court, the judge gave me 4-1, we were fucking ecstatic. Very, very excited, fucking all smiles all round. I remember getting handcuffed and taken in the Supreme Court in Brisbane. You go down to like a lower lobby before they take you to holding area, and I just remember being in this tiny little cell. I think it'd be an apple and a sandwich, and I just remember fucking sitting there, and all those thoughts of anxiety and shit start rushing you, right? Like, and not about jail.
Because it's real.
No, it's more about my family. What's going to happen with my family? Are they going to be okay and everything else? And then I just had this fucking weird, overwhelming sense like, you've done all you could, mate. They're going to be fine. And literally, that was like a weight off my shoulders. I'd gotten the sentence. I knew my family would be all right. I fucking fell asleep. I was out like a light.
Get some rest.
Oh, 100%.
It's been a couple of years.
She's been a big ride. So I fell asleep. And then, fucking off to the nick I went.
Yeah.
So again, I was planning on the business just kicking along, family being supported, had a good support network out there at the time.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening while I was away, through the connections that we made. So I told you it was horrible what happened with Bohem and that building going under in Wayne Cohen, but it introduced us to Hutchies, and through that contact, we got introduced to another contact, which set us up. We ended up winning the contract for the Commonwealth Games.
Oh, big one.
So we ended up...
That's a game changer.
Yeah, well, that was a massive contract. We built most of the stadiums for the Com Games.
Yeah.
So while I was away, when I went away, we had 20 blokes.
Yeah.
While I was away, we ended up getting up to about 100 staff.
Wow. And so that just ticked on with all the systems and things that you sort of set up.
Again,
and all the people.
I had a business partner out there who was running it up, but he too was set to go away. We were able to stage it, so we were trying to keep one of us out as long as we could.
Yeah.
But it was a weird chain of events, right? Like we ended up winning. A bunch of things fell in line to make that work. That I put nothing down. And it couldn't be described as anything but divine fate. You know what I mean? Like we shouldn't have won that contract. It shouldn't have gone the way that it did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a government contract. I was in the nick. It shouldn't have worked like that, right?
Yeah.
But it did. So
thankfully.
So I ended up coming out, and I remember going to the ATM the day that I got out, and I put my card in and got a transaction receipt from the ATM. I ended up getting it framed, and I gave it to my business partner. Yeah. Because that was a special moment. The amount of money that we made off that, and it had banked and everything else.
Can you say?
No, I won't.
Enough to put a smile on your face even right now.
You know what the crazy thing is, right? I was impressed with that, but that was that denomination has since been dwarfed, right?
Yeah.
But at that point in time in my life, right, I was impressed. You know what I mean? And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Now, as I said, my business partner, building a good team is everything. And as I touched on before, your word is your bond. Your word means everything. Mate, and what's that saying? Good friends will support you while you're in jail. Your best mate goes to jail with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And fucking having someone that you can rely on, you know that they're going to be there. You never have to question them. You never have to question your team. It allows you to do some pretty special stuff, right? Because you know that guy's got you, holding you down, right? And then, so when I got out, he was away, right? But he'd done such a good job, you know what I mean? Obviously, I'm not going to win another Com Games, but I wanted to hold him down. I wanted to keep running it up. So the day after I got out of prison, I went back to work the very next day.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, I went to the ATM, I had some pretty fat stacks. I was doing all right. But I was like, no, he held me down. I'm going to hold him down. We're going to make this pop. So within a month, I'd won another $1 million contract, right?
Yeah, wow.
And we were back out Pelton and everything else. I think by this stage, the Com Games was an anomaly that ballooned our staff up to about 100. We'd contracted back down to like maybe 40 staff members. But yeah, we started winning work and growing organically from that.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, over time. Again, I never really. I kept the same mentality. Kept working 12-hour days. Kept busting ass. Still, I get up at 3:30 every morning. Still.
Yeah.
I don't get home to my family till 5 o'clock every night. You know what I mean? And that's all I know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just been ingrained in me to sort of put in and bust ass.
I think that sort of disciplined mindset and like consistency is definitely key to growing any sort of business.
Yeah, 100%. No procrastination, no days off.
No, you do have to have work-life balance. That's the other thing. So what I did early on, compounding's a big thing, right? The eighth wonder of the world. You know what I mean? If you get in early, when's the best time to start saving and compounding? 20 fucking years ago.
Yeah.
When's the next best time?
Yeah.
Today. You know what I mean? Like, the compounding effect, and it goes for health as well, right? You see some fucking jack-ripped dude, he can go fucking smack 50 million Kit Kats and fucking get a beer gut, but because he's got that muscle memory, they bring it back real quick, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be just financial, but compounding positive things in your life builds a really solid trajectory moving forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what I lost in those years of my family life, and I robbed myself of social outings, kids' birthdays. I was, you know, my missus loves me for it. But, you know, that's what sort of led the way. But you also have to equalise that shit out. You know what I mean? You want to be there for your kids. You don't want to become a fucking big Scrooge and be, I've got a fucking big bag of gold coins, but I fucking don't know my kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So...
Well, that's a big thing. Like, success isn't just making money. There's so much to it. Like, as in being able to be around your loving family and spend valuable time. Like, I think that's successful. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's just I'd rather be doing that fucking, you know, on a comfortable budget than fucking stressing over money. You know what I mean? Especially when it's not that hard, right? You can put in a bit of work, you can get a bit of a grind, and you can get a bit of a flow on, and fucking you can make bank.
And being consistent.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, man, I'm not special. I'm a high school dropout. I taught myself to read because I wanted to learn business. I literally had to read like a few lines, then get out a fucking dictionary, and then read what a word said, and then read what fucking some of the words in the dictionary said in the dictionary to work out what I was fucking reading. Like, so I didn't pay any attention at school. And I don't know, when you guys saw upstairs, I've got an extensive library now. I read regularly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you fucking learn to read, you know what I mean? It helps. So lost a train of thought.
That's alright. That's sick.
What else can I sort of fucking try and...
Can't do it.
Yeah, high school dropout. Fucking, couldn't read and write. I was fucking, born massively premature. I've been in and out of prison. I've
Had your party phases.
I've been associated with fucking criminal organisations. Like, how much more disadvantage would you like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what's your excuse? Like, if I can take that and then pivot into something else,
Anyone can do it.
pretty much. You know what I mean? Well, fuck.
Doesn't get much worse.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there are people out there. The things that I'm blessed with, and I am grateful. I'm grateful that I won the location lottery, right?
Yeah.
I was born in Australia. What a beautiful fucking place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was born to some lovely, wholesome, blue collar family members who fucking, they're the things I'm blessed with. And unless you're born in India, like there's people say I hustle really hard. There's some dude in India who works 16 hours a day with bricks on his head to earn enough money to be able to buy some fucking bread.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I hustle really hard. Well, fuck, man. Like there are other things that come into play that assist. But if you're born in Australia, it doesn't take, or any other major developed country in the world, it doesn't take that much to be able to put some moves together and apply yourself, get some compounding fucking momentum and build something for yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
It worked for me. Something else I could probably suggest to people when they're trying to get started in something, when they're trying to, again, financially, how you're going to make your first 10 grand isn't going to be how you're going to make your first 10 mil, right?
Yeah.
As that progresses, there's like, it's not getting rich or making money isn't
Not linear.
No, it's lockstep, right?
Yeah.
Well, ideally lockstep. You can have some tumbles, but and at each step you're going to have to learn new things. You know what I mean? And I'm not a theorist. I'm a practitioner. I didn't go to school. I didn't study business. You know what I mean? But so I can only speak from what I know, and there's probably people who can do it better than or have done it better than I have. But from what I've learned, the first 10 grand I made that by just fucking putting in blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Compounding that effort. Busting ass and fucking whatever you can, exchanging time. Once you've got 10 grand, you still need to be exceptionally frugal, but you've got to start doing something with that 10 grand.
Yeah.
All right? The denominations can be 10, 20, whatever the fuck it is. But now you've got a little bit of money. It's easy to take that 10 grand and flip it and make 20.
Yeah.
Right? Not so much when you've got 10 mil, you can't do the same thing, right? Otherwise, banks would be doing it. Why do you think banks give you fucking 5%? Because it's harder to do with larger denominations.
Yeah.
But with 10 grand, you can watch that, right? You can watch that 10 grand really hard, monitor it, and buy small things that you can flip or whatever the fuck your skill set is, right? And again, be really frugal so you compound and build it up. Then when you get to like 100 grand, right? Then you've got to start learning how to optimize other people's times, right? Other sorts of things, right? Because there's only so many hours in a day. You could do big flips at 100 grand, right? But you've got to start, you could be using contractors, other sorts of things to try and turn that 100 grand over. And generally the denominations will minimize. You know what I mean? Again, being exceptionally frugal, saving, off you go. When you get to $1 million, or when I got to $1 million, the biggest thing to learn in that situation was leakage, right? Because the whole time building up to it, I was like a hook-nosed Jew, like fucking just save. But then this thing called opportunity cost comes in, right? And if I'm being a hook-nosed Jew and I'm not spending any money and and I'm focusing on this one singular thing to try and save 10 grand, the time I put into that, I could have made 20 over here.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
So then you've got to look at opportunity cost and then accept leakage to try and maximise. And again, your return on investment generally starts dwindling, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the more it's there.
More it goes, and again, it just turns over and over.
What would, if you were to say, like, I guess put it down to a few different things, what would your purpose be?
Fuck, I'm a dad.
Family.
I'm fucking, 100%. I'm a dad first, and then I am a partner, I am a son, and I am a brother. That is what defines me.
That's awesome.
That's it.
I'm very similar. It's the same sort of thing with me. I think it's like when like you become a dad, it's a whole different sort of purpose to what it is before. It's a whole different ball game. I've noticed it massively in my businesses and myself. Is once my son was brought into this world, it's just a whole different ball game. Or when I knew he was going to be here, you know.
I can't relate to that, but I guess if you could sort of not go back and sort of give your younger self advice, but in that sort of area where you were just grinding, is there anything
Nice and tasty. Is there anything, not sort of like necessarily piece of advice, but is there anything you would sort of tell yourself while you're going through that phase?
Buy Bitcoin, no. No, not really, man. No, go on. Look, obviously, fucking stay away from gangs. Don't do drugs.
It's fair advice.
Yeah. But no, I had to make the mistake. I'm a hard learner.
Yeah.
So any mistake I made, I learned from. And
Everything happens for a reason.
100%. Like that's the story I just told you with the Cullen Group going under. That was fucking horrible. But it led me to,
Next avenue.
next avenue.
Things, yeah.
Similarly, like again, it happens all the time. I told you before, I was building encrypted Blackberries ages ago, and I used to work with a network of people. Had I not got into trouble, and gone down this route, right, I would have still been in association with them. I still would have been doing things. Blackberries got the Phantom server got shut down, and they closed them out. And then the syndicate that I knew associated with moved on to another network, and it's again a few years ago. It turns out that network was actually set up by the feds, and they all got smashed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it fucking sucked getting pinched. It's horrible at the time, but had I not, you know what I mean?
Wouldn't have opened the doors that led you to where you are today.
And not only that,
been worse.
it would have gone worse.
Yeah.
I would have fucking where your attention goes, it grows. You know what I mean? And I would have just doubled down.
Yeah.
And fucking next minute, you would have seen fucking my mug on telly getting absolutely fucking wiped out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I avoided a cataclysm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bad things happen, but how you deal with them is what defines you. You know what I mean? You can't control everything that happens in your life. You can only control how you're going to react in that situation.
Yeah.
Similarly, I was mentioning before with the when I went to make a purchase of some scaffolding equipment, and scaffolding's not something that you can they generally lend on, right? Because it's so easy for it to go missing. It's a million fucking pieces. It's not like a plant, like a one truck. You know what I mean? It's easy for bits and pieces of scaffold to go missing. So I don't normally like lending on it. But shout out to Judo Bank, they're fucking legends. Bit of a plug there. If you need a business loan, the way to go.
You heard it. Judo Bank.
Judo Bank. I went to them, I put forward our financials, our fins, everything got put across, and they liked it. They went, yeah, sweet, your business is stacking up really well. We're going to give you a line, just secured against you as a director. You know what I mean? Whatever, cool. And then part of when you're getting finance is you have to be able to service the loan. Then you have to be able to cover, the right equity positions, like 40, 60, whatever the split is. They also do a character test, right? And I passed everything with flying colours until it came to the character test. They Googled my name and they went, no chance, right? No sirree, Bob. And by this stage, at the same time, I'll rewind a little bit. I had an opportunity to, I thought, fuck it, I'm going to buy some steel. If I buy steel, I need to get a yard.
Yeah.
Right? I thought I was going to get this loan up, so we bought a yard. Right? So I got 8,000 square metre yard, fucking huge yard, started developing, turning into a fucking scaff yard.
Yeah.
Right? Already committed, I got plant, machinery, we're getting it done.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, yeah, sweet, waiting for this steel order to come through, and fucking, firstly, when I went to buy the steel, the price skyrocketed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's when it's 2019, had COVID come through, fucking steel prices, everything globally, shipping went through the roof. So the prices went up, went from about 1,900 a tonne to 2,400 a tonne. I'm like, fuck, do we pull out? What do we do? I went, nah, balls to the wall, we're just going to give it a crack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we committed to buying the steel, committed to buying the property, and then next thing the finance fell through. And I was like, fuck, you know what I mean? I was gutted. I was like, what the fuck do you do? Again, aimlessly, I'm like, okay, I've got to do something. So I started peppering the loan suppliers.
Yeah.
Right? So I started peppering. Fuck, go on, meet with me, talk to me. Let's do something.
Figure it out,
Come on, let's have a chat. And it ended up giving me an opportunity to sit down with one of their senior credit managers, which you normally wouldn't get to see. And I got to sit down with him, and when we sat down, my commercial manager presented a bunch of financial documents. And I remember him looking at him. I could see in his face he wasn't interested in it.
Yes,
He'd already approved the loan, didn't care.
Yeah.
So I looked across the table and I said, "Dude, you don't care about it." He's like, "No." I said, "You want to know about me, don't you?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, let's cut the shit. Let's have a man-to-man conversation. I'm going to tell you where I was. I'm going to tell you what I did. I'm going to tell you where I got to.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to leave the ball in your court, and you can make up your mind whether you want to work with me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I ran him through fucking from go to woe, what I've been through, like grit, determination, everything else like that. I left that meeting, within a day I had that finance approved. Right? But the benefit off the back of that is I also got his number.
Yeah.
And he has the ability to approve rather reasonable amounts of lines of credit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was a negative based on my past history because of we persisted with it.
Yeah.
And it turned it into a positive.
A lot of people as well, when they're faced with that sort of negative, they just kind of throw their hands up and they won't follow through with that.
Yeah, especially if you're denied. You just go, "Oh well, it's denied, not meant to be. I'll just try and."
Similarly with the steel, right? We bought the steel, and we worked it back to like a 3-year payback period when we initially bought it, and when the steel prices jacked up, it was going to be like a 4.5 year payback period, which isn't the best investment.
Yeah.
But I was like, fuck, I've already got the yard, and we're already going through all this struggle.
So that's
But we're just going to make this work.
Yeah.
But because of the rising steel prices and issues with freight, the rental return off the steel skyrocketed. So it went from being a 5-year payback period to a 1.5-year payback period based off of current market rates.
Yeah. Wow.
So again, just giving it a bit of a nudge, she pulled off. So
Worked out. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Sometimes problems, they have a funny way of, if you have a good head on you and you don't let them get above you and weigh you down, sometimes, you know, the obstacle is the way. I think Peter Thiel quotes that.
Yeah.
You know
Good
what I mean?
book.
Yeah,
Great book.
Not bad.
Yeah.
You do a bit of reading, eh?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it. A little bit blown away. That's a hectic story. No, thanks so much for your time, Brady. I really appreciate it. Thanks for jumping on, sharing your story.
No worries, lads.
Hopefully a lot of people resonate with this.
Yeah.
So, a lot of bangs in there too.
Yeah, a lot of bangers. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sweet.